Okay, and I see a few people waiting to join, our friend Lisa as well.
Yeah.
So I want to welcome everybody to your ISPI SoCal webinar. We're based in SoCal, but we welcome people from everywhere. I just wanted to make a few remarks, ground rules, whatever we'd like to call them. So in theory, everybody's placed on joining. You have control over unmuting or not, and I think Bonnie may have some interaction. But for the most part, we'd like you to put your questions and comments into chat because we can also capture them that way. And Vincent Miller and I will be able to raise the questions as possible. So if they occur to you, go ahead and put them into chat. That way you don't forget or have something else happen. We don't get to hear your question or comment. We will leave questions, time for questions at the end, and we will ask them during the session. Bonnie is okay with that. The session is being recorded, so if you don't want your face or whatever recorded, you can turn that off or turn your video off. Be aware of whether or not you're on mute just during the session. So with that, I'd like to I'm so pleased to introduce our speaker today, who's Bonnie Beresford. And I will just say she was totally fun to engage with as we were setting up this meeting and prepping and everything. And she's a real expert in our profession. She leads the learning and performance analytics practice at GP Strategies. And she guides measurement strategies for clients, and they include Fortune 500, nonprofits, all kinds of folks. And she's going to be here today to talk about her approach, which is the measurement map. So welcome, Bonnie.
And thank you very much, Kathleen, and welcome to everybody. I'm going to take over control here together.
It gives Miller time to admit more people too. There you go. It's up, Bonnie.
Okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. I'm Bonnie Beresford, as Kathleen said. And I'm a self-confessed data geek. I'm a measurement nerd, all those things. And I got my career early on. I was working in statistical process control. And just to share how much I loved data and math and that sort of thing, I was on a bowling team, and we did trending of our bowling scores to see if we could predict how our bowling would be. And if any of you have bowled, you might know, and this was an evening bowling league that came with pitchers of beer. So we were trending our bowling scores, and we found that our first game was usually better than our next game, and our third game was usually worse. And we decided we did have a correlation there. And of course, we did the math to prove it, that the more beer we drank, the worse our bowling got. But that just tells you how much I love data. I love numbers, and I want others to love data and numbers too. Well, maybe not love it, but at least not be scared of it. Because when you think about it, data and numbers and measurement are all around us every day. And I want you to think about your world, and that measurement really is everywhere. We do it maybe unconsciously. You might think, oh, I don't like numbers, I don't like measurement, but you do it. So let's in the chat, just get us warmed up here. And if you could type in something that you have measured today. Peggy's measured her weight. And hopefully that was a good thing. Dawn measured her weight. Number of reps. Okay, Lisa. How many minutes until, oh, that's sweet. How many minutes until, I presume you meant our session. That's great. So we've got weight, we've got numbers of reps, we've got time, we've got student success measures for California Community College, time spent on emails. So we've got these measuring systems all around us. They're well known. We know how to measure a cup of flour. We know what the speed limit is and how to measure how fast we're going. We have clocks that measure our time. And you know, when we've got those systems of measurement that we all know and love, well, maybe we don't love them, but we know them, it's not so scary. But when it comes to measuring human capital, it gets a little dicey because we don't have these standard measurement systems. And that's often what the problem is what is this measurement that we do? So I do have to pause and say, well, why do we measure? And why did I get into this anyway? Why did I choose as my performance consulting angle to get into measurement, to get into the evaluation side of it. And part of the reason we measure is to prove. And Lisa, you were doing reps, so maybe you're training for an Olympic sport of some sort, or for a marathon or something. So, you know, when we get the medal, we've proven. But we do an awful lot of measurement to help us improve. So Lisa's doing her reps, and Peggy's getting on the scale and weighing herself. And we're doing that to improve. And we think about measurement for learning, measurement for human capital investments in that. And sure, we want to prove that our training worked. But we really, and especially being in the International Society for Performance Improvement, it's not the International Society for Improvement, International Society for Performance Improvement. We want to use measurement to continuously improve our learning initiatives as well as the students that we're reaching. And when we think about learning for measurement, it's like, well, where are we today? And many of you have probably grown up with or become familiar with or studied Kirkpatrick and Phillips and understand that we've got levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, and let's add a level 5 for ROI, and maybe even have this level 0 to get the inputs or the utilization. And we've got these. And in fact, I don't know if you knew this, but Kirkpatrick first wrote about his levels in, I think it was 1959. So this has been around for 60 plus years. So it makes me wonder, how are we doing? After 60 years, we ought to be pretty darn good at this, right? Well, survey says, here's what we're good at. Here's what we do. And this is from Burson. Yep, we're good at that level 1, level 0 kind of stuff. Yep, we take satisfaction and completions, and well, we're not doing very much job impact and business impact. Well, what do organizations value in terms of measurement? No surprise, they value the impact measures. So why, if we have had a wonderful model of 4 levels and now 5 levels for so long, are we still not there yet? Another survey did ask about this. And they said, okay, well, how many of you really want to? Not just that you value, but how many really want to? This survey from Leo Learning and Watershed showed that 96% of learning leaders want to measure impact. And 10% actually are. So this is even a little more dire than the Burson study. This study, though, went on to ask why. Why? If 96% of you want to do it, why are only 10% doing it? And I'm going to pause here. And I am imagining that many of you have hypotheses about why people are not measuring impact today, even though 96% want to. Kathleen says it's hard. Anybody else have ideas about why organizations just aren't measuring impact? Sam, not sure how. Doubt that the data is there. It's expensive. Absolutely. And we hear these all the time. Don't know how. The survey asked this question, and guess what? Don't know how. Number 2, can't get the data. Number 3. They move on to the next initiative. And Don, that's kind of like competing priorities. I'm sorry, I've got another program to go do. Or I checked the box and got this one done. I don't want to measure. What if it's not good? Then I'm going to have to redo what I just did. Oh gosh, I don't want to do that. So there are all kinds of reasons. Now the competing priorities is kind of that's an organizational one. And they'd have to place a premium or a priority on measurement if they really wanted to not just prove, but to improve. I mean, what if you were spending $1 million on a program that didn't work? Wouldn't you want to know? But what we're going to talk about today is this part, because this is where a lot of organizations struggle. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to measure, and they don't know how to measure. And if you're like me, if I don't know how to do something, I procrastinate. I've got this, I'm going to call it a hole in my drywall in my garage. And I really don't know how to drywall. I've tried it, and I guess I have the wrong tools. the wrong skills. So I have kind of put off that drywall. I've put a piece of board up against it so I don't see the hole, but I procrastinate because I have competing priorities, and something that I don't know how to do doesn't get prioritized. So sometimes I think that happens with measurement, that people don't do it because they don't know how. So one of the main reasons they don't know how is what I call the alignment challenge. I don't know what to measure. I don't know how to measure it because I've got this investment. It could be $1 million investment. Maybe it's $100,000. Maybe it's $10,000, but I've invested and we've got some strategic goals. I don't know how to show that. I'm just, in my heart of hearts, I know it's designed well. I hope it works. This just doesn't cut it today because everybody around us is becoming data scientists and wanting to play with data. And they're looking for us to do that too. And we can't just rely on a miracle anymore. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a new tool to put in your performance consulting toolkit. And it's called the measurement map. And we're going to spend the rest of today looking at what the measurement map is and how it can help you. We're going to explain how it creates what I call this causal chain of evidence. It's kind of a logic model. If here's my training, then I do this, and the people that come out of it do this and this and this and this. Eventually, our strategic goal of being best place to work might happen if I can draw that causal chain of evidence to align my investment. We're going to see how measurement mapping helps us with what to measure. What are those metrics that I can capture that are going to show impact? And we're going to do a little activity to together create a very simple measurement map so you can kind of dip your toe in the water. We do offer more training on this if you want to become an expert, and I've got a book about it and some articles. But today, this is like the sampler platter. So we start with where we've been. And after 60 years, we still aren't at that impact stage. And that's because, in my opinion, in my experience, is we're missing this alignment. We need to get with the business partners right up front and talk about what it is that they hope comes out of this initiative. They have come to their learning professionals saying, hey, maybe they've come and saying, hey, I have a problem. Often they're coming and saying, hey, build this training. We need to pause and say, what would success look like? How would you know? What do you want your engineers, your salespeople, your nurses to be doing after this training that they're not doing today? We need this alignment phase, and we do that in partnership with our stakeholders to outline what success would look like. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that, because it really means connecting the dots. We've got our investment and we've got our goals. And we do that with what we call leading indicators and business results. You may have heard of leading indicators and lagging indicators. I like to use the term business results rather than lagging indicators because sometimes people aren't quite sure what lagging indicators mean. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Business results, we know, are a good thing. Business results are business data. Business results are starting to bring financial value into this chain of evidence.
Bonnie, this is Kathy. This seems like if we're not engaging already with our stakeholders at a senior level, this seems like a way to maybe initiate that process and maybe tighten that relationship. Have you seen that happening?
Kathleen, I totally have. Thanks for asking that question. I was working with an organization that they brought me in to train them how to do this. And one of them came back after the next week and said, oh my gosh, Bonnie, you're not going to believe this. I said, tell me your story. She had gone to her business partner. They were kicking off a project. And she said, I want to do this a little bit differently. And she had, we have a little template that goes around the conversation that you have with your stakeholder. And she was following that template in a conversational way. She, it wasn't like a survey and a pad of paper, but she was talking to the points in this template about what the business problems are. What's the evidence of the business problem? And her business partner said, well, these are different kinds of questions. And she said, yeah, I want to be sure we're aligned. And at the end, we're going to have a measurement map. And she held up a sample of a measurement map. And their time ran out. And the business partner said, let's set up some more time. We didn't get into all the issues I want to talk to you about.
Wow.
She said she'd never had that before. In fact, she usually had a hard time getting any sort of needs assessment opportunity. Going in and talking to the business partner with a structure and with a defined outcome, meaning your measurement map that shows, hey, I get your business. I understand your problems. Here's what success looks like to you. And that's what I want my training to help you succeed with. I'll design my training to achieve those things with you. It just opens up that door. And it changes the conversation, and it doesn't, hey, can I have an hour of your time for a needs assessment? That's not what it is. This is a business meeting. So thanks for asking.
Yeah.
You know, there's one other thing, Kathleen, that comes out of that in building these maps with your business partner. I think it was Peggy that mentioned that it was hard to get the data. When you have your business partner thinking through this and building a map with you, they actually own the data that you want. And now they are part of the team. Now they want to know. Now they're curious. You've got their curiosity piqued. Can your training really do that? And they can get you the data that you've always had a hard time getting. Not only do they define what it is, they give it to you because they care too. So what does this really look like? You know, because everything's got to be in measurable terms because we want to measure it. And that's one of the tricks is what is a measurable thing? So let's take a look at some leading indicators and business results in this context. Let's presume, hey, Kathleen, play along with me. You're a real estate agent.
Okay.
And you might have a strategic goal of some annual income target.
Okay.
And, you know, to hit that target, you've got to sell some houses. Now, there's one difference really between these two signs.
Sold.
Can anybody point out what it is? Yeah, sold. Right. So sold is when it starts carrying a financial value, Kathleen, for you, because until it's sold, there is no commission check coming. But you as a real estate agent may be having other leading indicators. I'd like to open this up to the chat. Maybe some of you are real estate agents. Maybe some of you have bought homes. Maybe you've got a real estate agent in the family. What do you think a real estate agent would want to be counting and paying attention to if they want to achieve the income that Kathleen has set? Number of listings. Yeah. If you have no listings, there's not going to be much income. Oh, Vince, yes, sold means something. It could mean future listings. That could mean referrals, and you can count number of referrals. Number of clients that you have. How many people are you working with right now? Commissions. And your commissions are your business result because you know that you need several commissions to hit that strategic goal. Excellent. Number of visits. Yes. How many showings have I had in the house I'm listing? How many showings have I taken somebody else to? So these are the things that a real estate agent, whether they're tracking it on paper or just in their head, they know. Because if they have no listings, if they have no customers, if they have no referrals, it's going to be a pretty sad payday. Vince, yeah, the soul tells the other people to stay away. Right. So all of these, we call these all key performance indicators. I'm sure we've all heard KPIs. Well, leading indicators are really the evidence of things to come. My listings, my showings, and sold are the financial valuations, my commissions, and my ultimate salary or earnings. So that's kind of how we distinguish between these. So one thing happens before the other, cause and effect, which is an essential element for making a causal argument. It's got to be logical that one thing comes before the other. And with our leading indicators, it shows that. When we bring this now to maybe a more corporate perspective, we could have leading indicators such as engagement scores. And we know that there's a lot of research that says engaged employees are more likely to stay, which will reduce voluntary turnover. And a lot of organizations can put money on what a point of turnover costs. Customer satisfaction. We can count that. We measure it. Organizations measure it all the time. And it translates into market share. And companies know what a point of market share is worth. If we just launched a new e-commerce site, we want to generate sales, but did anybody come to our new site? We're not going to get sales if nobody came. I love watching Shark Tank and have people say, we have a site, but they didn't have anybody come yet. Or the alternative, they have lots of people visiting and hopefully lots of sales. So anyway, in product recalls, if you have a lot of bad products, you're going to get inventory write-offs, and that's going to cost you. So again, one thing leads to the next. And what we're trying to do now is connect our investment, whether it's a sales training program or an RN program, to what are the leading indicators to the business results, to the strategic goals of the company. I'm going to give you a little practice here, just kind of differentiating between what a leading indicator might be and what a business result might be. Remembering that a business result usually can be translated into something of financial value. So does anybody out there have a restaurateur in your family? I'm imagining most of us, at least sometime in 2019, went to a restaurant. So we all still know what the happy signs are of a restaurant. So let's imagine that we're having a nice meal, but you own the restaurant and you want to be sure that you're being profitable. That's your goal. You want to be profitable, and you're going to train your front of house people. Those are your wait staff and your maitre d'. So we've got some indicators here. These are KPIs. We got a bunch of KPIs, and let's just try to organize these into whether we think they carry financial value, or maybe they would be an indicator of something to come. Let's start with the first one. Thank you. Yeah, Sue's commenting about ill-conceived measures of engagement. Yeah, you got to be careful about what you engage, how you measure some of this, right? And when we can get quantitative things as opposed to perception, it's even stronger. So let's take a look at average check amount. Would that be a business result? Does it carry financial value, or is it a leading indicator? And in the chat, you can go ahead and just type LI or BR. There we go. We've got some business results. Yeah, the check amount is going to have a financial value. That's really going to lead to our profitable restaurant. Let's go to the next one. How about how many occupied tables? I'm standing there looking over my wonderful restaurant, and I see I've got 50 tables and 48 of them are full. Is that a leading indicator or a business result? Yep, you guys are jumping the gun. Leading indicator. Then we've got, how about number of reservations? Yeah, leading indicator. How about meals sent back? Uh-oh. Yeah, that could be a leading indicator. Or Dawn, yeah, it could be a business result, because we might know that an undercooked steak going back is going to cost me some money. It could be either one. And this is where it's kind of an art form. And it's when you work with your business partner, you figure out where it kind of falls for them. And time from order to table. I place my order and it takes 60 minutes to get my meal versus 10 minutes. That's certainly going to be an indicator of whether I'm happy or not. And then we've got the last one, social media references. What they say about me on Yelp. Yeah, we're going to make that a leading indicator. And you see, I put 2 X's there, and you might think, oh, poor Bonnie, she doesn't know how to line up things in PowerPoint. There's a nice little tool you can do for alignment. I know that. But what we've got here is the fact that some of these are kind of on a continuum. Some come before the other. We could say that positive social media references leads to reservations. We could also say quick service and not sending a meal back leads to positive social media references. So there are different ways to organize this, and you want it to make sense with your business partner. What's important is that they believe that this is true and that these are things that we can measure. I'm going to take this and we'll get into more leading indicators. A leading indicator is evidence of something to come towards our business goal. If our business goal is the profitable restaurant, what things have to happen? And we're going to get into some measurement maps now that will show you exactly what we mean by that. And we're going to use the measurement map as a causal chain of evidence. And we're going to come back to this swimming example and let's imagine Michael Phelps for a minute. And he had a goal, let's say, of winning Olympic gold. And he did happen to win 28 Olympic gold medals, most of anybody ever. Plus some silver and golds, but who's counting when you got 28 golds? So if gold is his goal, what does he have to do to win gold? So think of anything. You've got a goal. What do you have to do? Well, the first thing he has to do is earn a spot on the Olympic team, because if he flounders and doesn't make the Olympic team, he doesn't have a chance. He knows that he has to hit the money result of the freestyle under 1:45, because that's what his competitors are swimming. To do that, he has to get the breaths on lap 1, lap 2, lap 3, lap 4, and the strokes and his number of strokes just right, because he's a fine oiled machine and he doesn't want to end up at the wall with a half stroke. He wants to maximize every stroke that he gets. And so he practices to know, and he has to keep his oxygen just right so he can keep his speed up. And to do that, he's got to know what his working heart rate is and what his body fat is and what his weight is and how far he can stretch those long arms of his, what's the range, and be sure that he's limber in that. And to do that, he's got to know what his diet is and what his resting heart rate is and what hours of sleep he gets. And then he and his trainer can put together the training regimen that will help him build his body first to the right physical condition, then to the right breaths, then to the right times. And if he goes out and has spicy Thai food the night before a race, has indigestion, gets up in the middle of the night and eats a gallon of ice cream, he's probably not going to have a very good race, because he knows his leading indicators will be out of whack. So now let's bring this to a business sense, and this is sales training. And sales is a pretty straightforward example because most people understand how to count sales. And this organization wanted increased market share and profitability. And to do that, well, you got to increase your sales volume because that'll get you the market share, and increase your gross because that'll increase your profitability. What do you have to do that? Well, you're going to have new customers and repeat customers. Okay, so I might have different training and sales approaches for those. And our business partner who we're building the map with told us that. And they also told us that you get different gross from a new customer than from a repeat customer. So we want to track that separately because we think we're going to get more out of the repeats and referrals. Well, how do I get that? Well, I've got to get a closing ratio, and I've got to get my closing ratio up. So it means I better be able to negotiate well. And I better earn some referrals, and I better earn the right for customers to come back. And I get that through my customer satisfaction index, which may have a series of questions on it, like my salesperson listened to me, was responsive to my questions, knew their product, whatever might be on our customer satisfaction survey. And to get to that closing ratio, we've got to have, these are new customers, I've got to make customer contacts. I've got to get appointments set up. I've got to do presentations. I have to present proposals. And now I know what my training needs to be. So as a leading indicator, now I, as the head of a learning organization, can go to Kathleen, I'm going to make you the VP of sales. Congratulations on your promotion. If I were to tell you, okay, I know your sales cycle, it's about a 6-month sales cycle because you're selling big, expensive goods. Yeah. But 1 month after training, the people who've gone through training have increased their number of customer contacts, and they've increased the appointments they have been setting and the number of product presentations. And they've increased more than the people that didn't go through the training. Kathleen, would you believe that this training that we collectively built is starting to take effect?
I would. There could be other variables, and I think that's one of the things that we would think about in a sales. Is it just that they're in a market that's hotter or something like that? But I would certainly tend to think that yes, I want my other sales folks to go through this if they haven't yet already, and see if that trend continues.
So what we get with leading indicators is evidence of what we think is going to come. This is one big hypothesis, really. We have built this with our business partner. They've said this is what they want us to deliver. And if we can deliver people who can make contacts, improve their closing ratio with their negotiation skills, and get referrals, the business results should come. And the importance of building this with your business partner is that they believe it. And so when you go to them and say, you know what, we're increasing number of customer contacts and so on, we can start to see evidence that the training is making a difference.
And I think the other thing, Bonnie, just the way, we characterize that in that dialogue, it would perhaps uncover other variables, right? I mean, you're definitely seeing this as a trend and all other things being equal, the people who have been through this program are doing better, right? So, but it might also give rise to other variables, right? Which is also valuable. You could extend your measurement map potentially.
You could, and Kathleen, sometimes the other variables, people will say, well, there's spiffs, or the interest rates are low and people are borrowing to buy our product because maybe it's furniture and they need to take out a loan. Well, the market conditions generally are similar for all salespeople. If we put a spiff on the new leather sofa, all sales consultants get the same spiff. So that's not a differentiating variable. We would, though, if we had regional differences, maybe take that into account in our analysis. One of those other variables, Kathleen, that you're talking about, like tenure, that's a very common one that people think, well, he's got more experience, of course he's going to do better. Well, let's factor that in and see. Sometimes it might not be a differentiator. But those are other things that we definitely want to take into consideration. And your business partner will tell you what those are, and they'll tell you all the, well, yeah, but. And we want to capture those and control for them in our analysis. But let's get back to another sample of a measurement map. This one comes out of banking, consumer banking. And this is for customer service reps who are trying to get, keep customers happy and increase their loyalty and increase the profitability per customer. And how do we do that? Well, let's increase the value of deposits. Have them put more of their money with us, and let's keep them. We don't want to lose customers to the neighboring bank. And, we have some turnover amongst our customer service reps, and we want to decrease that because that's hurting business too. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we can increase the total number of accounts. We can increase new accounts. We can increase account balances, increase the number of products. Oh, we don't just have to have a savings account. Maybe we could have them take out their mortgage with us and have a credit card with us and other products that we sell, increasing our share of wallet per customer. That would be good. And we're going to get there by having these agents know their thing and treat customers well. And we want to reduce turnover. So we've got good people on the phone that have experience, and the customer satisfaction index is going to go up because we're going to spend time with the customer. We're going to get them to enroll in our online services. We're going to resolve issues on the first contact. Folks are going to be engaged. And it's going to come down to training. And how many of them did we train? What percentage of them have been trained? So this one actually takes the training into account as a leading indicator. So these are just some examples of the idea of a causal chain of evidence where we've got our training, our employees take the training, put it into action, we start seeing the behaviors change. And when we see behavior change, we ultimately see the business results change, which results in us hitting our strategic goals. So the purpose of a measurement map is to get us to be able to articulate what these things are in a measurable fashion and in a way that is compelling to our business partner. And now, oh, Noel, you asked if it's easier to work from left to right or right to left. In fact, a good measurement map should tell a story from each way. And sometimes you find yourself on the left going to the right, and sometimes you go from the right to the left. And sometimes you kind of start at the left and say, yeah, we've got this training. We already have the training in place. Is it working? And then you go over to the right and say, well, what would it look like? And then you go back to the left and you kind of go back and forth. When we build it, we don't start organizing the metrics yet. And you're going to see that in a minute. You're going to see it in a minute. So we've got this mentoring case study. And this is where you're going to help. We've got a mentoring program, which, that's not as black and white as sales. How in the world is a company going to measure if the mentoring program is working? You can see their situation. We've got many jobs that are specialists, so we can't have formal training because we only have 3 or 4 or 5 people in a role. We're concerned about a brain drain. We're concerned about staff leaving. We want to have some knowledge sharing. So let's do a mentoring program. Great. How will we know if it's working? I'm going to give you a little starter here. Here are some possible KPIs, some possible metrics. Number of mentees, mentee satisfaction with mentor, and so on. I want you to look at these. And if you had a mentoring program, or if you've been in one, or if you currently are working on one, think about what might be some additional metrics. What would be evidence that this is working? We're going to pause and just let you guys think and put some things in the chat. Performance of the mentees, internal promotions, retention. Yeah, that was part of the objective. Let's retain people. Let's have people perform better. Yep, improved performance. Improved performance gets interesting because that's kind of, it's easy for to say what improved performance is for a salesperson. It might be different for a programmer or for an engineer or for other job roles where performance is not so black and white. And that's one of the challenges of a measurement map is what do we mean by performance? And just say we want to improve performance often isn't good enough because I don't know how to measure performance until we start defining what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Oh, bad. Oh, yeah, I can certainly tell performance of the mentors. Bad mentor, yeah, the mentee failure. Okay, so let's take a look at Mentees Satisfaction. Okay, let's take a look. This is actually a real case study from a high-tech organization. And I'm going to show you the map that they came up with. And I'm going to build this one from left to right so you can see how that works. Yeah, we got mentees staying in the program. Yeah. So this is actually how we would do it in a stakeholder meeting. If we were in person, we'd have flip charts and we'd have Post-it notes and we'd have these little yellow stickies all over the place. And then we'd start looking at them and saying, does this make sense? And what order should this go in? And then we start arranging and bringing order out of the chaos in the brainstorm. And we started in this one with, we've got a mentoring program. Does anybody sign up? Do we have too many mentees and not enough mentors? I mean, right there, if you've got a lot of mentees and not enough mentors, you instantly know you've got a problem. You can take corrective action. Let's presume we've got them and we've gone into the program. And some of you mentioned the mentee satisfaction with the mentor. We could certainly do a little survey and find out if they are. What percentage of the teams are actually having meetings and meeting? They signed up together. Are they actually doing it? How about the percentage of mentees who now sign up to become mentors to somebody else? And the percentage of mentors that re-engage as mentors to another mentee? If we stopped right here, and if we saw that these were all positive measures, the satisfaction was high, everybody was having meetings, mentees were becoming mentors and mentors were re-engaging, would we already begin to believe that our mentoring program was having some value? Would our leading indicators give us a hint that, yeah, this thing might be worth it? Absolutely. And then, yes, we get to performance. And because the mentoring program was across the whole company, it wasn't job role specific. So to compare an engineer's measures versus somebody in manufacturing versus somebody in accounting was kind of hard. So they said, let's look at performance ratings and let's look at improved performance. And they thought they were a meritocracy where performance would be increased pay and that you would get pay for performance. So they put that on their map. And then they did engagement scores. They did engagement surveys. And I think somebody mentioned the promotions. And yes, promotions, the hire from within. And they said that's going to help because that's going to reduce our recruiting costs. And we want to look at the retention rates of both the mentees and the mentors. And that's how we're going to increase profitability. And they were viewing that if people are engaged and people are staying and people are getting promoted, that the performance is there without downright measuring each individual's performance outside of the performance ratings. And this was credible for them because of what their strategic goal was. So how did they do? They took a look at what they'd come up with on the map. And this is kind of an important part. You look at what's on the map and you say, boy, is all that really credible? Do we already have that data? Because if you don't have the data, then you've got to figure out how you're going to get the data. And they decided that trying to track the teams having meetings was just a data collection effort they didn't want. So they said, okay, we don't have to do that, but we can look at the satisfaction and the others. They also got a lot of pushback on performance ratings and this merit pay thing, because people said, I don't believe our performance management system is implemented equitably across the entire company. And I'm imagining some of you have experienced that as well, that your annual performance review may or may not be a good measure of your performance or of a colleague's performance, and different managers are going to rate you differently. And they just said, you know, there's too much noise in that and not enough credibility. And the same went with the merit pay, because they said, you know, we like to think we're a pay for performance organization, but people are really skeptical that that truly happens around here, because they saw something where they didn't think it was fair and somebody got a raise and they didn't, or whatever. So they said, rather than mess up our analysis with things that are not credible, that people will challenge us on, let's just not bother. We have enough things that we can measure here to show the effectiveness of the mentoring program. Because what we're trying to decide is, should we continue it? And if we show that people are satisfied with it, if people are getting promoted from within and we're retaining them, that's going to be sufficient evidence for us to go forward with our mentoring program. So then we do a bit of an observational study and look at people in the program and not in the program and see what happened, and take into account different things like what job role are they, or what level in the organization, what gender or age or tenure are they. And these are some of the things, Kathleen, you mentioned about those other factors. We want to take a look at those and factor them in, because maybe one division has great mentors and or a great senior leader, and that's what's the difference, not the mentoring. So we want to take those things into account.
Bonnie, we're closing in on our 45 minutes.
Okay. We are just about there, because I did want to show you a couple of the results that they got, which is they got more promotions. They were having a hard time recruiting mentors. When they got this data, they were able to now tell mentors, hey, this program can be good for you too. And they also saw an improved retention rate amongst the mentors and the mentees, which resulted in a multi-million-dollar savings for them. So they could improve the program and how they recruited for it, and they were able to prove that it worked, so they continued the mentoring program. So the measuring map can be used for all kinds of things. We gave several examples here, but the list is endless. Anything you want to measure that you've got an intervention for, we can build in a measurement map for that. And so I hope that today you've learned that, yeah, most more organizations do struggle getting beyond the basics, and that the measurement mapping process gives us a framework for having that performance consulting conversation that Kathleen was alluding to. Yep. And that the map creates a picture of alignment and identifies the data we need to go get to measure impact. And there's no such thing as the one right map. Every map's going to be different. If it's logical, if everything on it is measurable and everybody believes it, that is a good map. And you saw with the last example, you don't have to measure everything. Go with the data you have. And it is an art and a science. Again, no two maps are going to be the same. Even for the same intervention, they'll be slightly different based on the artist. But really, get started and have fun with this, because it really helps business conversations and it helps getting aligned with the business. So hopefully you've found a new tool in your performance consulting toolbox. And I think we have, well, it's up to you guys if we have time for questions. I'll stick around.
Okay, if you'll stick around, Bonnie, that's great. We just have a little bit that we just have to close out with. And One of the things I want to let people know is because we're doing measurement, we're going to be sending a little measurement survey at the end of this just to help us measure how we're doing. So if you would look for that, we'd really appreciate it. And let me just show the right slide here. So Vince.
We're almost there. This is the initial slide up, Kathleen. Aha, here we are, the magic slide. I think this has been great, Bonnie. Thank you. I always love coming to a seminar where I want to know more and I didn't want it to end so soon. And yes, hang around for questions. What I wanted to let everyone know a bit of the business. I'm Vince Budrovich, the chapter president, and we support ourselves by these meetings. We hope you think of joining. As you know, if you do a single meeting, it's $10. But if you join us for 6 months, it's $20, where we'll have about 18 meetings in every 6-month period, around 36 in a year. We have a listing of some of the meetings coming up. We have meetings on a roundtable format, these challenge webinars on Tuesday, and DE&I meetings on Friday. All meetings are free if you're a member. I hope this is enough of a commercial for you. Why don't I turn it back to you, Bonnie? And feel free, I put my email in chat. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Bonnie, the floor is yours.
All right, well, I'm just open to any questions folks might have here.
Bonnie, could you show the resources slide that only flashed up for a fraction of a second?
I can. There we go. And Miller, I think you've got some others that you can send out or post as well.
Yes, I'm going to be sending a PDF of all of these slides, so you'll be able to see this on your own desktop very soon. I'm expecting that email will go out tomorrow.
So Bonnie, on your mentoring slide is a good example. If I were the finance person sponsoring a mentoring program and what came out, I'd kind of yawn at it, because that's a lot of standard stuff that HR is supposed to be doing. And so what I would suggest if I were the finance person is I would say, why don't we mentor how to actually have a tangible financial impact with a program like Six Sigma or Lean or some other kind of cost management program that by mentoring this group of people, I could get a different set of leading indicators that would have more direct impact.
Erwin, thanks for that. So often, you know, the challenge they had was it was across job roles. If you were to, a better way truly would have been to pick somebody like you said, a certain particular initiative that you want to mentor people on, because then you have many more leading indicators that are more job related and behavioral based that you can get at. So rather than including the entire company. What's that?
It's a good example, you know.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot more behind it because we did actually segment it by department and see some differences by department, but that's kind of confidential. They didn't want to share that.
Right, right.
But you're right. Some of those are, you know, we had engagement and we had retention and promotions. Of course, those are HR things. But what they're trying to do is, what are the levers that they can pull? Was mentoring one of those levers? And when we do the statistical analysis and you do your regressions and you've got your confidence intervals and your statistical significance and that kind of stuff, you can say that, you know, this difference is attributable. You can account for which percentage of the difference that you plus or minus X percent.
Good.
Can be attributable.
Bonnie, we need to wrap up in the next minute or two. I think we've got all of our questions answered. I want to thank you myself for this. This has been just terrific.
Well, it's my pleasure chatting with all of you today. Thanks for all your attention and the input in the chat windows.
Yeah, that's one thing we do bring to our speakers is an attentive audience with good questions.
So if we have to roll off, I totally honor that. And if not, I'll stay on to ask another question.
Ask.
Yeah, we do need to roll off. Thanks.
Annette, you want to go ahead? I'm still here.
Sure. Okay. So my question is this: I absolutely love I love the flow of the model. I love it, the process, and you can work in either direction. Appreciate it completely. The question that I have is related to the 6.7 million on the annual retention rates, because I could easily see someone saying that's a halo effect. You're taking credit for the mentoring program, you know, and there's a whole bunch of other, or those people might not have left the company. If someone signed up to be a mentor, they weren't a likely candidate to leave. So I'm just kind of curious about how you would manage that potential pushback.
And these are what we call the other factors. And when you do your measurement design, the measurement map is part one of your measurement. Part two is the measurement plan. And that's how are you going to conduct your analysis to factor in and account for as much of that other as you can. And part of it can come down to your control group. If you can find a control group, and I think we all know this from any experimental design, you know, whether you're testing for a vaccine or you're testing, does mentoring work? If you can get a control group that's similar to your test group, and there are ways in data to find those people who have similar backgrounds, similar work experience. It's called, there's propensity scoring to find similar people so that when you compare your test people, your mentees and mentors to the others, you're comparing similar people. And that helps get rid of some of that. The other is when you can factor in those other things into your equation, or say, yes, 6.7 million, you know what if it's only 4 million? Should we continue? Think of the business, you know, why are we doing this? Remember, we started out, is it to prove? Do we prove that the mentoring program is working? If we prove that they like the program, they're re-engaging, did we prove that they like it? And is it having an effect? 6.7, 4.2?
Ladies, we need to end our meeting. I thank you both for
and then to improve. Okay, and with that.